James had given 10 years of his life to Linwood Dynamics, a well-known tech company hidden behind glass buildings and polished public images. To the outside world, it looked like a symbol of innovation, but to James, it felt like a shiny prison. He was the only black man in the entire department. That fact was never spoken aloud. Everyone was far too polite for that. But it was always there, hanging in the air during meetings he wasn't invited to, in every surprised look when he spoke, in the backhanded compliments like, "You speak so well." James arrived early, stayed late, and solved problems that others couldn't even understand. Still, to them, he was never just a colleague. He was the exception, the one who didn't fit the mold, an outlier, a man in a suit, but never fully accepted. Sometimes, it felt like they saw him as a monkey in a suit, though no one would ever dare say those words out loud. Mr. Thompson, his boss, wore expensive watches and always had a fake smile ready. Around clients, he called James buddy or sport, but behind closed doors, the message was always clear. Know your place, be thankful. James knew better than to push back. His father had warned him long ago, you'll have to work twice as hard to get half the credit. That was just how things were. So James kept his head down. He stayed quiet. He endured until the day the mask slipped. "James, I need to see you in my office." The tone was flat, almost bored. When James stepped inside, he saw two supervisors already standing behind Thompson. Neither of them could look him in the eye. It felt like a trial with no lawyer, no defense, just judgment. "We decided to let you go," Thompson said casually, like he was brushing away lint. James's throat tightened. "Excuse me? For what reason?" "It's a company decision. Restructuring," Thompson replied. But his tone said something else. This wasn't just business. It had never been just business. No warning. No explanation. No dignity. Just a cold handshake. And a security guard waiting near the elevator. James packed up his things into a cardboard box smaller than the one his pride could fit in. As he walked past desks filled with people he had helped, trained, and supported, most didn't even glance up. A few whispered. No one stopped him. No one said goodbye. Outside, the city felt colder. The sound sharper. He wanted to call Sarah his wife, but shame clung to him like sweat. What would he even say? That he'd been thrown away for simply existing? He wandered for hours, past skyscrapers filled with people who never had to question whether they belonged, past billboards full of fake smiles, past shadows that looked too much like his own. When he finally got home, Sarah greeted him with a warm kiss. "You're home early. Want me to make you some tea?" "I got fired," James said. She froze. "What? Why?" No reason given, but we both know the reason. Silence. But her eyes didn't fill with disappointment. They burned with rage. "They can't do that," she said. "They already did." Then something shifted. She crossed the room, picked up her phone, and started dialing. "Who are you calling?" James asked. "Trust me," she said. Her voice was cold and sharp like glass. James had always known that Sarah came from money, old money, but they never talked about it. He never asked, and she never flaunted it. He appreciated that. But that week, she wasn't just his wife. She became a woman on a mission. She made phone calls, held meetings, sat with lawyers who wore suits more expensive than James's yearly bonus. And James? He tried not to fall apart. But the nights were long and heavy. He replayed every moment, every smirk, every joke that now felt like a knife. Until there was a knock on the door. It was Malik, a quiet junior developer from the legal team, one of the only other black employees in the company. He looked nervous but determined. "I heard what happened," Malik said, "and I found something." He handed James a flash drive. "Thompson's been covering up complaints, racial bias, harassment, even fake performance reports. Yours too. They wanted you out." James's hand shook. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because someone has to stop them. And because I'm probably next." The next morning, Sarah handed James a folder. "I bought controlling shares," she said calmly, but with fury in her voice, "through a shell company. They don't know it's me yet. James stared at the documents. You own Linwood? She nodded, but I'm not stopping there. That afternoon, Thompson got a memo, an emergency board meeting. He walked in confident, smug, proud of the empire he'd built through silence and fear, until Sarah walked in, and behind her, James. Thompson's face went pale. What the hell is this? You're being investigated for misconduct, Sarah said. Effective immediately, you're suspended. You can't do this, he stammered. I just did. James looked Thompson in the eye. His voice was calm, but firm. You wanted me gone. Now I'm back. And this time I'm not alone. Before Thompson could respond, the doors opened again. For journalists walked in. Cameras ready. And that was only the beginning. Still stunned, James asked, Now what? Sarah smiled. In a way, he had never seen that look in her eyes before. And then came the turning point. The following Monday, Linwood Dynamics looked exactly the same from the outside. Employees walked in and out, sipping coffee, typing at their desks, chatting about their weekends, like nothing had changed, like the ground hadn't just shifted underneath them. Inside, Mr. Thompson leaned back in his leather chair, holding his usual cup of coffee, feeling as confident as ever. He thought he was untouchable. The air feels lighter now, don't you think? He said to his assistant. She nodded without looking up, her eyes stuck on her screen. Deep down, she just hoped the coming storm wouldn't reach her. Then a voice echoed through the office. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Walker, your new boss. Heads turned. The entire office fell silent. Thompson stood up slowly, stunned. Excuse me? Sarah walked forward with purpose, each step echoing sharply on the shiny marble floor. She looked every bit in control. I bought majority shares in this company last week. As of today, I'm the CEO. I make the decisions now. A wave of whispers moved the room like a gust of wind. Thompson gave a dry laugh, trying to brush it off. This is a joke, right? You bought the company? Exactly, Sarah said, her voice cool and firm. Why? He asked, his jaw tight with disbelief. She crossed her arms. Because I watched you destroy one of the best employees this company ever had. Because no one else stopped you. People looked down at their desks. Some shifted in their chairs, clearly uncomfortable. Everyone remembered James. Everyone remembered how quiet they were when he was fired. The guilt was thick in the air. Thompson tried to stay calm. We had no legal responsibility to keep him. And I have no responsibility to keep you, Sarah replied. Silence. What are you saying? He asked, his voice cracking. You're fired, Sarah said without blinking. Thompson's face turned red. You can't do this. Oh, I can, and I will, she said. Not just you. Everyone who helped create this toxic, racist culture. The enablers, the whisperers, the ones who stood by and did nothing. All of you will be held accountable. Panic started spreading. Eyes darted around. Some people began sweating. You don't have any proof. Thompson shouted. Sarah raised her phone and tapped the screen. Behind her, a large monitor lit up. A video started playing. Clips appeared one after another. Sarcastic remarks, mocking voices, cruel laughter behind James's back. Hidden recordings from break rooms and hallways. Every rude comment. Every racist joke. Every moment of cruelty. Laid bare for all to see. Thompson stumbled back. This is illegal. You can't do this. It's against the law. Sarah didn't flinch. Then she turned to face the rest of the room. I'm rebuilding this company from the ground up. I want people with talent, with integrity, with respect for others. If that's not you, there's a door. Some employees had already started packing. They didn't say a word, just left. By noon, more than a dozen desks were empty. By evening, the company hadn't just lost weight. It had lost its shame. Sarah stood by the window of the main office, looking out at the city skyline. Then she picked up her phone and made a call. Come to the office, she said. James arrived, still unsure what to expect. He walked past curious stares and quiet whispers until he reached the top floor. Sarah was waiting for him, holding a manila folder. Welcome to your new company. James blinked. My what? You're the new CEO, she said. He froze. Sarah, I can't. I'm not ready, I'm not. Yes, you are, she interrupted. You're exactly what this place needs. Someone who's been ignored, stepped on, underestimated, and still stood tall. You understand what inclusion really means. You earned this. James looked around the room, the same office he had once walked out of in silence and shame. I don't know what to say, he whispered. Sarah reached for his hand. Say you'll change the story. James turned to look out the window, watching the city stretch far beyond. Then he nodded. I will. Months passed. Under James's leadership, Linwood Dynamics didn't just grow in profits. It changed in principle. He hired people from all backgrounds. He started mentorship programs for underrepresented youth. He created a diversity and equity council with real power and a real voice. The company's atmosphere shifted. People smiled more. They worked together more. They talked with kindness instead of suspicion. The company started making headlines, not for scandal, but for the good it was doing. Investors returned. Clients praised a new direction. And slowly, Linwood regained not just its business, but its soul. One afternoon, James walked into the cafeteria. A young black intern sat alone at a table, nervously pushing his food around. James walked over and smiled. Mind if I sit here? The intern looked up wide-eyed. Me? Of course, sir. James laughed gently. Don't call me, sir. We're all equals here. The boy smiled back, shoulders relaxing. I've never seen someone like me at the top before, he said. James chuckled. Well, get used to it, because we're not just changing a company. We're changing the story. The boy's eyes lit up. And in that moment, James knew all the pain, the silence, the shame, the years of struggle, it hadn't been for nothing. Because real power isn't in fancy job titles or corner offices. Real power is the courage to say, no more, and the strength to build something better from the ashes